Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie at First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. In this episode, we're going to be looking to the next week in the life of the church. It is, I would argue, our most important week throughout the year. And so a lot is happening. I want to just share some of it with you, or all of it with you. Ultimately, that's what I would love to do, is to have all of you share in these experiences together. The first that I want to talk about is this Sunday. This Sunday is Palm Sunday. We call it Palm Sunday because it is the Sunday that we remember Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, where he is riding on a donkey and people are using palm branches, laying them on the road, and praising him, saying, Hosanna, Hosanna. And it's just this really high moment. Jesus is coming into Jerusalem off of his kind of 3-year ministry around the countryside, healing people. One of the final miracles that he has done is he's just raised Lazarus from the dead, not too far away from Jerusalem. And now is the time. And so hopes are running high, and it's big kind of celebratory service in the life of the church. And in our church in particular, it is doubly so. We realized some years ago that a lot of our families for Easter may or may not be with us because people will travel to spend Easter with their family, as they should. And we wanted to be able to celebrate as a church. And so we tend to do our big celebration stuff on Palm Sunday at the church, and for our children and families in particular. And this year is no different. And so our kids are going to be singing in church. They're singing a song called Hosanna. And then they'll be waving palm branches and ribbons, and we're just going to have kind of a real nod to that at the beginning of our service. And then we're going to be finishing up our Lenten series on the theories of atonement, which I've been really grateful for all of you. I might have mentioned before that, as clergy, when we gather, one of the things we're talking about is, well, what are you preaching on? What are you doing for Lent? What are you doing for Advent? And we sometimes share resources and things like that. And I remember I was with some clergy, and we had a gathering in January. And that was the big question. What is everybody doing for Lent? And I said, I'm going to be doing a series on the theories of atonement. And everyone was just like, oh. And some were like, you would. But I've been just really grateful. The feedback that I've gotten from this is been really good, really positive, that you've been learning a lot, that it's been doing what I hoped it would do, which is to help you spend this season in contemplation and meditation on what Christ has done for you. There's been some really fun moments as well. I think one of probably the more memorable sermon moments has been a little bit of sin in your life is like having a little bit of poop in your brownie, which isn't even a line I came up with. It's one that I heard someone else say. But my favorite part was Dennis Kish went home after church that Sunday after hearing that and brought me back a brownie that I did eat, and it was delicious, but I did question him more than once on what was in that brownie. So yeah, I think it's been really good to go a little bit deeper, to think a little bit outside of what maybe we think we know, or to be challenged, to be broadened in that. So I hope that's been good. This final one, I think, really leads us nicely into Easter. So So that, and then after worship, we'll be having our Easter extravaganza for the children and the families. We'll still be having fellowship time, but also for anyone who has children, it'll be a great time. We'll do an Easter egg hunt. We've got some fun games and things planned. The youth are going to be kind of really leading and hosting that. We have some incredible youth in our church. So that is this Sunday. So that's something you definitely are not going to want to miss. Sunday afternoon, because it is the first Sunday of the month, which also means we have communion, is the service at the Human Services Center. I do that every first Sunday of the month at 4 o'clock. And if you would like to come with me and just check it out, you are more than welcome to do that. Usually I go with Sarah Clavon, our worship and praise team leader, and she leads the music and I lead the service. We've had another person that comes and I've had them hand out bulletins, but really they just come and worship and just be another person to be there and to be supportive and help make up the community of worshiping people together. And, you know, that's something I started this fall, and it's been one of the highlights of ministry for me this year is that time, and I look forward to it every month. And so I would be happy to involve you if you would like to come and experience that for yourself. So that will be Sunday afternoon. Wednesday, we will not be having our normal Wednesday night activities. Typically, Wednesdays are very busy in our church. We have a lot of things happening. Usually our 605 children's programming is happening. Our youth ministry programming is happening. We have a meal, we have worship, we have all of this stuff. We're not going to be doing that this Wednesday. And the reason is because it's Holy Week. And instead of having all of that on Wednesday, we want you to come for Thursday and Friday. So Wednesday night you have off, but we are giving that off to you so that you can come Thursday and Friday. Thursday night at 7 p.m. will be our Maundy Thursday service. Maundy is Latin, and it has to do with the foot washing that Jesus does on that night. This is the night of the Last Supper with his disciples. This is where communion really gets instituted. It's also the night where Jesus is in the garden and praying and is betrayed by Judas. And so that is a very meaningful service. I'm very excited and lucky to be able to say that we're going to have special music by Julie Mooney at that service. And so I invite you to come and to experience that. And I really want to kind of lean into that these Holy Week special services are very experiential. There are things for you to be doing and participating in, not just sitting and listening, but, you know, Maundy, Thursday, you're going to be given communion again, and you're going to have the offer of having your feet washed, or your hands washed. That's fine too. We don't want it to be like a pilot situation, but, and then Good Friday, the service is again at 7 p.m. What we do for Good Friday is a Tenebrae service, and Tenebrae services are characterized by it getting darker as the service goes on. And so you start with maybe you use candles, maybe use other light sources, and then as you hear the story of Good Friday, the final day of Jesus' life, and you hear of his death, you end the service in the dark. We allow for some light so you can get out of the building safely. But we're doing something a little bit different this year. We're going to be hosting Good Friday service, not in our sanctuary, but actually in the lounge, just behind our sanctuary, in the round. So when I say that, it's going to feel very different. It's going to feel very informal. Our focal point will not be me, will not be the altar, but something in the center of the room. And there's going to be things for you to participate in. And it's just going to feel like a very different, but hopefully very powerful kind of service. These are services that, even from my teenage years, became my favorite services to do. Are my favorite services to attend, and then as a pastor to do. They're very meaningful. These are incredibly important events for us to remember. And I think it does a real disservice to our faith to go from Palm Sunday, which is celebratory, to Easter Sunday, which is celebratory, and skipping the hard stuff in between, because then you don't know what you're celebrating. That victory isn't so sweet if you haven't gone through the trenches, if you haven't walked through the hard things too. And so we invite you to those. Thursday and Friday are both at 7 p.m. And then we invite you to come back on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. for our Easter worship service. The choir is going to be singing. We've got some fun things happening. And I'm really looking forward to celebrating it with you, to celebrate Easter and the resurrection and why we are who we are and why we celebrate what we do. And so you are invited to all of those things. If you have found that you really love our church, you really love what we're about, and you really love who we are, and are interested in joining the church following Easter service, the next Sunday we'll begin a new members class on Sunday mornings at 8:30. It's a 3-week course, and about hour-long class each class. They're not difficult, but we want to make sure that if you want to commit to it, that you know what you're committing to and who you're committing to. And we certainly believe that this is a church that whoever walks in our doors can find a place here and be welcomed here and find a home here, and more importantly, find God here. And so we certainly would want you to, if you are feeling that nudge at all, we want you to come. We'd love to have you be a part of our family at the church. And so those things are happening. And then the final thing I want to lift up today is Dakota Wesleyan is coming April 13th. So it's the week after Easter. Their Highlander choral group is doing a tour along with the Wesley Bells, which is the premier collegiate bell group in the area. They have like bells and chimes, and it's crazy. Anyway, so they are coming and they're going to kick off their tour with us at First United Methodist here in Yankton. So that's Thursday night at 7 p.m. And I am so looking forward to it. I've been very blessed to have this group stop on tour at a church of mine before, and it was such a blessing. And so I can't wait for us to experience that again. And so make sure you get that on your calendar. You invite your friends, anyone who enjoys good music, and a wonderful bunch of college students who really are really a joy and a pride. I will say that Dakota Wesleyan is producing a lot of our pastors that are our new pastors that are coming into the conference are coming through Dakota Wesleyan. God is moving in a powerful way there. And I am so thankful for the people who have invested in them, in those students and in the students that are there now and the students that are yet to come. Dakota Wesleyan is our United Methodist affiliated college in the state, in the conference. And so it is good for us to support the work that they are doing. And so with that, I'm going to keep this episode relatively short. Not a lot of, I know I've been in Lent sort of depressing, but that's what Lent is for. Easter is coming. God bless. I'm so excited to celebrate with all of you. And let's all pray together that as Easter comes, winter leaves. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful Holy Week. I hope to see you very soon. God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Going On, a podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Wednesday nights at 6:15 or Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. You can also worship with us online at firstumcyankton.org or find us on YouTube.